Okay, everyone, welcome back. Thankful to all be together. I look forward to this. And it's just a gift to be able to get together with engaged people interested in going somewhere and developing. So it's really a pleasure to be here. So this class was on the mind, and in each of these sections, we're foregrounding a dimension of the self. All the dimensions are always there. The point is to get to a place where we know them so well that we are spontaneously aware of the place that each is taking in our presence and in our behavior, moment to moment, without even eventually really having to think about it. And certainly to be able to summon any of the dimensions and be able to focus on the mind or focus on emptiness or luminosity or focus on the authentic self or focus on the soul, focus on the superego and be able to immediately presence those dimensions in our own experience in a way that isn't at all abstract. And what your experience should be, if you're really taking this course seriously and really engaging in the discussion groups, doing the reading and really contemplating, and during each module, focusing on that dimension of the self, you should notice that you're changing. And I'd be very interested to hear from people what they notice about how they're changing. But you should also begin to notice that in relationship to other people, you're much more clear on what parts of them are speaking and what parts they're acting from. And that particularly in relationship to this class, that should be so in the treatment room. So you know what dimension of the patient is, where your patient is coming from, what dimension they're identified with, what they're speaking from, the values of each dimension of the self become more and more known and more, and the capacities become more and more known and apparent. So in relationship to people, as you become increasingly clear about these dimensions within yourself, the big muddled soup of relationship should get relatively clearer and clearer as all the different dimensions become discrete rather than be all blended together. The issue for most people is they have all these voices inside of themselves and they're not aware who's speaking when they come up with an idea. They're not aware what part of them tells them to do this or that. And at a postmodern stage of development, where we awaken to the inner collective and we can hear many voices, the issue is that all those voices are equal. There isn't postmodernism, its great genius is deconstructing hierarchy. So every voice in the head becomes equivalent and everyone gets equal time, and it makes real development after that point really a matter of sincere, dedicated, and quite serious work to be able to reestablish a hierarchy and understand the capacities and the different value systems, and that some voices are coming from survival and some are coming from the sexual impulse and some are coming from the quest for power and some are coming from who their main value is wanting to belong, and some come from just the objectification of rationality and materialism. And then we have, the part of you that wanted to go to acupuncture school at least recognized the attractiveness of metasystemic thought, holistic thought, and capacities beyond that, and could see that those capacities held promise to answer challenges that were posed by earlier stages of development. Because once you get to a holistic stage, you can actually begin to embrace all the former kinds of thought and understand their capacities and their weaknesses and strengths, whereas all the previous forms just rely on one capacity and reject all the others, tend to repress all the others and be at war with all the others. It occurred to me that I didn't design one of these classes as a module on the psyche, which is different from the mind. The mind is an evolutionarily evolved mechanism, the human mind, that orients us in time and space through the storage and retrieval of information in the form of memory, which is stored as thought, feeling, emotion, sensation, and opinion. The psyche, as referred to by Freud and Jung and the psychoanalysts and the transpersonal psychologists, is really the dynamic relationship of all the contents of the mind to each other. We don't, and it occurred to me, we don't really need to have a class on it because there are so many ways of looking at that. And it would be really do justice to of the psyche in a 2-hour lecture in a few-week module. My third book, the Deepening Perspective book, takes a deeply integral view, and parts go fairly deeply into transpersonal psychology and depth analysis in relationship to the contents of the mind and the psyche. When we talk about the mind now, we're not so much talking about its contents, we're talking the mechanism of how everybody's mind organizes those contents. And that's the same. So all of our, we're all unique individuals, different ages, different generational, ethnic, and social and cultural influences, with different memories and different experiences growing up. And we went to different colleges and had different loves and different relationships and different friends. So in that regard, there's uniqueness, but the mechanism is that every one of our minds orients us in time and space, orients the self in time and space through knowing. And its knowledge is entirely always based on past experience. And that experience is stored as thought, feeling, emotion, and sensation. And the mind is built to know, and when it doesn't know, it can't orient, and it experiences anxiety and fear, the emotions of the water element. And in order to make the anxiety and fear go away, it makes stuff up by projecting the best and worst possible outcomes. And everybody's mind here, and every mind that's ever existed, has worked the same. It's a machine. It's wholly and completely predictable. It works the same way for all of us. Meditation is the main foundational practice for humans to become ease in the face of not knowing. And when we can experience ease in the face of not knowing, when we don't have to know, when we come to a point where we realize that actually we don't know, nobody's ever known, nobody knows, and nobody ever will know. Nobody's mind ever will know. because there is a fundamental, impenetrable mystery as the will at the heart and wellspring of all existence. And meditation is the act of surrendering ourselves to that and discovering that part of ourselves, becoming increasingly comfortable so that under stress, the stress of not knowing, how will the tests come out? What will happen? Will I live? Will I die? Will this thing happen that I want? Won't it happen? Will this person be okay? Won't it be okay? What's going to happen to democracy? What's going to happen to environment? Is AI going to kill us? All that kind of stuff. In the face of that, discovering a deep an ease in the face of not knowing, which allows us actually ever greater degrees of objectivity, creativity, because to have ease in the face of not knowing is to become profoundly in love and in union with and partnership with the unconscious. And this allows for a profound interest in what's happening rather than jumping the gun to always have to know and be the one who has to know. Up until about 25 years ago as a teacher, I mean, honestly, I cultivated my mind as a defense mechanism to protect myself and to just be faster than everything and everyone else. And if I didn't know, I felt horribly insecure. And I would see myself making up answers for students because I couldn't bear not knowing. And it was a very big change in my life when I realized not only don't I know, but I'm never going to know. I'm never, I'm never going to know. And that creates a profound freedom to be really creative and to not have to be the one who knows. In historically, the shamans were the ones who knew. And after the shaman, the priests, right on up to the Pope, became the ones who knew. And in rationality, physicians became the one to know. And then in postmodernism, everyone knows. You have your truth, I have my truth. Nobody knows the truth. My truth is as good as any other. You see? So we have to take responsibility for everything we know. But it isn't the most compelling or interesting part of what's going on. I'm never interested. I'm never as interested in hearing music that I've heard before as in hearing the music. What I always want to hear is what haven't I heard? What is new? What's pushing an envelope? Who's doing something that's really like you listen and you go, wow, they have their own voice. They've really created something here. This is really something. The discussion groups that you're in offer you a profound opportunity to understand the role of listening in cultivating and actualizing medicine in the world. Listening is the most unappreciated, underused, and undervalued faculty that human beings have today. Oh, no one could see me. Here I am. Hi. When it said start the video, hey, I am recording. Okay, no worries. It went off again. How did that happen? Now it's back on. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, Um, so the discussion group's an opportunity to really listen and cultivate listening. Listen, 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 listen to people. The objectivity and the distance given through meditation by affords us the capacity to listen from a dimension of the self profoundly beyond the mind, profoundly beyond the mind, deeper even than our own personal heart. Listening with a profound care. The analogy I like to give is listening the way parents listening to their newborn. You bring the baby home and it's the first night, and all through the night, I mean, you're exhausted. You've been up 2 days straight or something, and the baby's in between you, or the baby's in the crib next to the bed, and you're lying there and you're fast asleep, and one ear's open and you're listening just to hear the baby breathing. That's the kind of listening that we endeavor to cultivate. That's what you should bring to your discussion groups. Those are the ears we need to listen to when we're contemplating these dimensions of the self, and start to get really interested in listening to people. I can't really explain why, but for whatever reason, when I was as young as 12, 13 years old, I would just go to the local shopping mall, which, was the center of culture back in 1970, 71, 72. And I would just sit and I would look at people for hours and hours and just watch, just pay attention to what was going on. So I'm interested to hear about changes people are experiencing. I'll take any questions on the mind. In terms of, I'd also like to hear if you're noticing any changes in your clinical practice. Ideally, you'd be able to hear people more deeply, which would inform herbal choices and point choices and any counseling choices, and drawing them to a greater depth. I'm still giving this lecture, a la carte lecture series. Next Wednesday night is on the healing crisis, understanding the healing crisis, the law of cure, and hexagrams 23 to 24 in the I Ching, and what that has to do with kidney 7, looking at the question in part, why do so many people who it seems like their life is just turning around regress and even die? So many people, just when they get sober, just when they get straight, just when they stop gambling, just when it seems like everything's about to happen, everything comes crashing down. Why is that? And how does that relate? How is that dynamic present in the treatment room in relationship to the law of cure and healing crisis? The three most significant classes I give are the 10-month shadow class, which I'll be giving again in September. If you haven't taken that, following on to that from this would be quite profound. And that class goes much deeper into Chinese physiology. If you have taken it again after this might not be a bad idea. I always found I needed to take classes with Leon over and over and over again. And I just hear things more deeply. And yeah, and then starting in the fall of 27, I'll give the last clinical integration class. And that's really the embodiment of all these teachings, where, the whole second year, where we learn pulse diagnosis and physiology the first year, and the second year is all seeing patients. Anyway, I'm very happy to take any questions you may have. Somebody's got to have a question. Okay, good. Hunter,
Hi there. Hello, everyone.
how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty, not too shabby, actually. Thank you very much.
I'm glad.
Things are going very well with all the class and the suggestions that
Is
you've
that a
made.
real background in back of you, or is it virtual?
It's a picture that I took outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So both.
Okay, so what's the question?
Yeah. I was some changes I've noticed with myself, just like not liking the same kind of music, not reacting in old ways and giving up old habits and things like that. Your book on page 75, you talk about with an increasing conscious embrace of the soul and spirit, the egoically conditioned mind is no longer the sole source of identification and is relegated to merely a component of the self. And this way, the mind can serve rather than rule. And I
Right.
was wondering if I was thinking also correctly on like meditation, how I wrote myself some notes here. Like meditation creates a neutral ground, like a clear space for that light to come in and the witness to help us observe and let the mind and the ego serve for the true, the good, and the beautiful instead of ruling. Is that like how they're serving us to take her closer to us than that? And like we talked in the shadow work class, when we show up and then we grow up and then we clean up and then show up and grow up, is that like the end stage of that through meditation, exerting our will, that we're able to let go of, like you mentioned in the lecture, the mind can create meaning. So now that we have exerted our will and are stepping away from the ego, we're able to create a new meaning and let go of being victim mountain and all those old habits.
That
So is
sounds
that,
good.
yeah, is that, so I was just kind of wondering. So
Yeah.
it's like,
The thing
yeah,
is, the thing is, in relationship to this teaching, there is no end.
yeah,
Practically speaking, there's no end. But everything else you said is right. I mean, the thing is that people tend to take the contents of their mind personally and invest these subtle objects of thought, feeling, emotion, and sensation, invest them with their by putting so much attention on them, we project ourselves into them, investing ourselves into them so that they reflect back to us our own nature, and then we think that they are us, but they aren't us. They're the On the one hand, everything is one, so we're one with everything. On the other hand, all your emotions and all your thoughts have no more self nature than a rock in your driveway. The rock in your driveway is a gross object that you would never identify with as self, right? If you saw a friend pull into your driveway and run over a rock, you wouldn't scream. You're not identified with it, right? But thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sensations we tend deeply to identify with, they're just objects that we're aware of. They're internal objects, they're subtle objects, but they're no more self than the tree out in the forest behind you is you. And yes, you're one with it. And yes, there's only one. And on the other hand, it's not you. It's an object in your awareness that you have some free will to take a position in relationship to.
yeah. So thank you
Yeah.
for expanding on that. Yeah, I've come to the point where I don't know who I am, kind of don't know what I'm doing, and it's been very freeing and terrifying in the same moment. So I look forward to reporting back after coming through more of this. Thank you.
Yes. And, perfect. And just thank you, Hunter. And just to say, when we talk about the mind becoming a capacity that we can use rather than being run by it, when we're run by the mind, we're run by the fear of not knowing. and the mind's desires. We're run by the fears and desires of the egoically conditioned mind. And when it's just becoming a capacity we can use, I just significantly am not run by my mind anything like I used to be. I have a lot of free will in relationship to it, but we can see that in postmodernism and in a lot of spiritual teachings, there's a very strong anti-intellectual bent. And that's not present in this teaching. Intellect is a fabulous capacity. We recognize it, though, as one of many. In rationalism, intellect is the primary capacity, and everything else is repressed or seen less than. But I can still sit and write articles and write a book and think critically. I can still use my mind. I'm just not identified with it in the way I used to be. If I don't know an answer to a question, I look at someone and smile with total ease and say, I don't know. What do you think? And I don't cease to exist because I don't know. I have no anxiety because I don't know. There's a lot about Chinese medicine I don't know, and that's okay. Okay, great. Okay, Julie, hi.
Hi, I have a very simple question because I was reading your book and you said that I think in the video I was watching. What does it mean to transcend the mind?
Ooh, okay, so transcend means go beyond, to go beyond. Now, for most of us, Julie, we're conditioned to only know ourselves as the contents of our mind.
Mhm.
So most of us know ourselves as, my name is Julie Groton. I was born on such and such a day. I had these family members, and this happened to me, and that happened to me. And I know myself, you know yourself as the biographical self. And all of that is memory, and that memory is stored pre-consciously from early ages before you had language as muscle memory and stored in the body, in the flesh, and stored in the flesh as neural mechanisms. I honestly don't know why my going off, folks. It's a bit curious to me. I'm sorry about that. It's not really essential. I mean, you're getting my voice anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
It will be on the recording. Yeah. So as language comes in, you start to be able to speak to yourself about your experience. And you start to be able to attribute motives to other people for their effects on you and for what you experience in the face of them. And as you learn to speak, culture starts speaking to you. We had the whole class on superego,
Mhm.
telling you who you are and how to think and what's expected of you if you're going to belong to your specific membership collective. You understand?
Yeah.
And all of that conditions your mind so that all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sensations, beliefs, and habits in the mind are primarily what most people know themselves as. And so if anybody is criticized or insulted, and for most people, being criticized or critiqued is analogous to being insulted, they take it personally.
Mhm.
To transcend the mind means to awaken to the dimensions of yourself that are deeper, broader, and higher than the mind, which are first the psyche. The mind is just something that stores and recalls memory based on habit in the past. The psyche is the dynamic relationship of all of it to each other and all the complex human motivations and dynamisms described in Freudian, Jungian, and
Mhm.
all other sorts of analysis. Beyond the psyche is the soul. So one can wake up to themselves as a soul. And then beyond the soul is the interface between clear white light of spirit and the physical body. So one can awaken to the absolute, the clear, the witness, and then beyond that, collapse into complete non-duality of 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 oneness. To know oneself, and as one awakens to these dimensions beyond the mind, what had been front and center as the main ring in the circus, the center ring increasingly becomes a sideshow.
Mhm.
Like for me, I have all the same fears and desires and jealousies and this and that we all have because we're all human, but they're just not the main event.
Mhm.
It's a sideshow and often recognized actually as a freak show. And I can often say, in the face of my experience, look what's going on in Lonnie today. Like I can see it objectively and have distance from it, but my attention is very much on the deep flows of the soul and the brilliant radiance of spirit.
Mhm.
And that's so in an integral teaching, the all the traditional teachings, and particularly the Eastern teachings, were about transcendence. But from an integral perspective, whenever we say transcend, we always also say include. We want to transcend the limitations of earlier parts of the self, but include all the gifts and capacities that they bring,
Mhm.
but transcend their shortcomings. So when we're not going to just talk about transcending the mind, it's a very different teaching than the teaching, for instance, that Eckhart Tolle or who's that nice young Advaita teacher on YouTube, the young guy. I think he lives out near Boulder. Can't remember his name at the moment. Anyway, if you listen to those teachings, it's all about let go of the mind, let go of the
Mhm.
mind, be, 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 be.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, the first 60 pages of my green book is on meditation. Before every class, we sit for 28 minutes. It's the second time I sat today. So obviously, I think it's important. But for me, all that is a ground for creative becoming.
Right.
And that's the difference that is the hallmark is that the evolutionary teachings sort of foreground creativity and becoming in the world in a
Mhm.
conscious way, as opposed to just transcendence and abiding.
Mm. Great. That was a very, very complete answer.
Thank you. It was a good question. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Hello, Eric. Hi.
Hey, Lonnie. Um, well, I'm going to give a bit of a segue because I think you just touched on a few of the things I wanted to say is
Mhm.
as far as noticing some changes that have been coming forth through the course is that I think you know that I'm participating in a leadership role in organizing ICON for next year, the Integral Conference of North America.
I didn't know that.
Oh
Did you
yeah,
did
yeah.
you tell me that?
I may have. I don't
Are you
know.
fr are
I
you
try not to
friends
make
with
it
are
a
you
main
friends
stage.
with Paul Block?
No, I don't know Paul.
Oh,
Paul's not involved with the organization anymore,
oh, okay. Okay.
but I do find myself in a room, at least virtually, with several integralists that have been doing this for, 30 years all the time, and I'm challenged with the um, the task of organizing and bringing them together and leading them in some way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
the teachings that we've been going through in this course have been invaluable in helping me maintain presence and perspective through through dealing with the through working with people that are used to being in that level of complexity a lot of the time. So
Yes.
thank you. It's really
Beautiful.
yeah, it's been direct application all the time.
Well, we
It's really neat.
probably know if, do you live in Boulder or?
No, no, I do it all virtually.
Well,
I
we
work
probably
with
know a bunch of the same people.
we probably do, yeah. I spend a lot of time, well, a lot of time. Alexander Love is on a few of my committees, so
Uh-huh.
I was speaking with him yesterday, for
Hmm.
example, and probably know a few others for sure. Um, my question is around, I think you just touched on it a couple times. My question is around using the mind as a tool from as an object once transcended from conditioning. I was wondering if you could provide a few examples or ways in which one can hone. I guess meditation is definitely one of them, but or maybe apply the mind's usage as an object, as a tool, rather than as the center of attention.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not a hard question to answer. I mean, just as a non-abstract practical in my experience is, I've played guitar since 1967.
Nice. I play
I'm
too.
I'm a fair guitarist. I'd say I'm an intermediate level jazz player.
Nice.
I can play fusion pretty well and this kind of stuff. But coming up, I didn't have there weren't as many resources in culture. I mean, now kids have 10,000 lessons on YouTube. Anyway, the long and the short of it is for me, science and philosophy and cultivation took front and center stage, and music was always a hobby.
Okay.
And I always thought to myself, this is one place, like with martial arts, I was so disciplined in it, like learning forms. I would take 2 hours to do one form and I'd do it. I'd take 4 minutes to complete a form that could be done in 40 seconds and just get everything perfect by millimeters. But for me, music was one place I wasn't going to apply that. Now I've come to a place in my life where I'm learning music theory and I'm studying it and I want to know it and I can use my mind to do that. But I'm not identified with it. And I don't have to do it I'm not doing it to be someone in the world. When I,
Do it.
so I've got a mind and, it's reasonably sharp and I can apply it, but it's a tool I can apply. It's not running me. And I'm not using the mind to build myself as an individuated self in the world, to locate myself, gain self-esteem, to be someone, to have power or control.
Nice. Thank you.
The mind is just a facility that can be used. But earlier in my life, like when I was writing Nourishing Destiny, I mean, it was a labor of love that came from my heart for 15 years, but I very much wanted to show the world who I was really worried someone would write the book before me. And it was really about, there was a lot of fear involved. And can I do it? And will it be successful? And one day I had 3,000 copies in my garage, and I was like, is anyone going to buy this? You know? So to me, when the mind is transcended, it actually becomes useful. When the ego is transcended, it becomes useful. It doesn't die, it becomes useful.
I see the distinction. Thank you. Yeah, there's a component of freedom that I'm picking up there that
It's only
um
about freedom.
yeah, yeah.
It's about freedom, it's about integrity, it's about love. And the freedom and the love are synonymous, and integrity is how we. So the freedom and the love are profound, but they can remain interior and subjective. And that's what 1960s, 70s narcissistic spiritual consumerism is about, having the experience. But integrity means these things only really exist to the degree that we embody them and enact them in the world in relationship to the biosphere, culture, cosmos, and others. So the integrity, the freedom, and the love, as significant as they are, don't become ultimately meaningful until they're paired with an integral integrity.
Understood.
Do you
Yeah,
know Corey DeVos?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, Corey wrote a nice piece today on just, three of the issues he saw with integral and the
Saw that.
problems with it. And one is that you don't become integral just by reading books. There has there has to be embodied practice, and martial arts is an embodied practice. The music I've done all my life, but the most significant embodied practice I ever had was well, there's meditation, there's qigong, all of it, but pulse diagnosis is profound.
Mm.
So, and that those embodied practices are what are a very strong component that can help us have integrity to the inner awakenings and transcendences. Because an awful lot of people who've transcended mind far more than I'm going to in this life created a lot of karma.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I love how you're pairing that with integral development, not just transcendence, but transcendence and inclusion. I think that's a very important component for integrity, and for authenticity in the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Danielle.
Hey, two things. One is just more of a reflection, something that I was thinking about when you were talking about listening and not knowing. And so as I'm trying to, listen more deeply, it happens in clinic. Sometimes I'll notice that my mind just goes blank. I'm not I'm not listening to I'm not trying to think about what I'm going to say next. So I'm just being present and looking at them and witnessing them, and I'm just not thinking about anything, um, which sometimes is a little bit, can be kind of awkward if someone's waiting for a response.
Do they
You
go
know,
like this? Hello, Danielle.
I feel well. I've already been told that sometimes I can just have like a blank expression, but I'm just I like to listen. So sometimes if you don't respond to someone immediately after they're talking, they're just kind of like, hello, are you even there? I don't.
Well, sometimes it can be potent to leave a space. Generally, when I'm listening, I'm allowing for a very deep, free and easy flow of associations and images and metaphors to just arise. You know how I am when I'm listening to patients, because you've seen a lot of patients with me.
Yeah.
So I haven't just gone into the twilight zone. I'm by listening. So when I'm talking about listening, I'm talking about the listening I'm talking about is commensurate with a supreme amount of attention. Bringing to bear all that I've known, everything I know is there, but not on my mind. It's all just there. And then things start arising, and the patient's speaking, and I hear point metaphors and Chinese characters arise, and hexagrams and trigrams arise, and images come up, artistic images come up. And so I'm letting all that happen.
Yeah, that seems just another dimension of listening that I haven't experienced that yet. So
I don't know if you know that you haven't.
okay.
I mean, you're experiencing it all the time. It's just like me with the morel mushrooms in my driveway. I mean, if I said, well, I'm not sure I've ever seen a morel mushroom, I'd be wrong because they had been there the whole time. I just didn't have the signifier. So the thing is, there is, you have a witness, and that witness is paying absolute attention, and it's not repressing or denying or lying, and it's seeing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second thing is more of a question. So the mind is a mechanism, and it's so helpful to understand it more because I've been able to see it at play more in myself and obviously in others. And you kind of talked about how the ego interfaces or plays on the mind.
Conditions in.
Yeah, and
So the mind is this machine that orients us in time and space through the storage and retrieval of memory in the form of thought, feeling, emotion, sensation. And the ego conditions it by making all the contents of the mind mine, and I, me, and mine. The ego conditions the mind by personalizing everything stored in the mind and creating an I out of it that is superior and separate.
okay. Yeah, because learning about all these dimensions of the self, I'm trying to see them holographically, not just as this is the mind, this is that. So, and I know our next class is on the soul, so I'm curious how that whether that interacts with the mind or conditions it or has an effect on it
Well,
too.
sure. Yeah. I mean, the conditioned mind and the soul are generally at odds because the conditioned mind operates out of fear and desire via the superego, and the soul operates out of being compelled toward union with spirit, and its voice is the conscience.
Okay.
And the conscience and superego are often at odds with each other. So the mind is telling you the easiest thing to do in a moment that it'll generally have the worst long-term consequences, but it avoid conflicts right now, but it creates karma. And the soul is generally telling you the most difficult thing to do now, which would often involve swallowing pride. But after acting on it, you're free. You're more free. The long-term consequences of it, you're more free.
Okay.
Part of the thing you were talking about listening is just that, and why you're bringing up soul is just that as water, your soul depth is very, very profound. And you want to make sure that you're not just submerging yourself in your own soul depth as opposed to actually listening. Because if you're actually listening to the patient, you're not just drowning inside your own depths or submerging yourself in your own depths. You're actually at an interface of a profound attention and listening out of a profound care, deeply involved with the other, but not enmeshed with. So like a fire type might become really enmeshed with, and you might be going so deep into your own depth that you're doing sort of the opposite.
Maybe.
I'm not saying that, so I'm just saying you can look at that.
Yeah, well, maybe sometimes that is happening, and then I'm back in with the patient, and my mind is like starting to feel anxiety.
Well, meditate contemplate, and go easy on yourself.
Yeah.
And pay attention to the patient.
I do. Thank you, Lon.
And try listening. But okay, so the thing is, I'm not just, you can tell I'm listening here, and you know that I care. But I'm not just sitting there doing that. I'm interacting, I'm engaging. And then I engage, and then I listen, and then I engage. Try that a little more rather than just sitting back and listening.
It's helpful. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thanks, Daniel. Hi,
Thank you.
Griffin.
Hi. I don't have a question, rather just wanted to report on the contemplation.
Mhm.
For a number of years, I've been playing with meaning making and choosing meanings rather than letting them come automatically. I sort of became aware that all of this meaning making is happening all the time and that it ain't necessarily so.
Mhm.
And we can make up anything we want. I'm thinking about the idea of pronoia, the taking the stance, sort of the opposite of paranoia, taking the stance of assuming that everything is arranged for our benefit, like viewing everybody as a teaching, everything that happens as a potential teaching. And choosing to do that has loosened the attachment to meaning so much, and also made me so aware of how automatically meaning making arises. It's just every second, all the time, pop up meanings. And it's really, it's been fun, I guess.
Yeah.
See
Well,
that and to make up other meanings.
there's nothing wrong with meaning, and meaning is a construct, and that includes the meaning that meaning is a construct.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay, good.
that's all.
Thank you. Okay, Joshua, hi.
Hey, Lonnie.
Hey,
Good to see you.
yeah, you too.
My question, I guess it relates to the progress report, because I'm finding that I'm finding the most progress when I'm able to step aside from my personal miasm and embrace more, not the ups and downs of, the weather of that, whether I'm up in terms of my constitution or down and like all the associations with that, but it just becomes less interesting.
Mhm.
But I can't say that I've been able to consistently be in the space where um, it's just not interesting to engage with my, personal melodrama a lot of the time. And so I think I've gotten more objectivity through your teaching and my own practice around
Now,
constitution.
Joshua, if anyone's paying attention, by the time they're 40, they should be bored to death with themselves.
Right. Well,
I mean,
just
40 years of paying attention, it would be like watching Gilligan's Island in syndication for 40 years.
yeah, well, I think the natural progression, because I'm getting there, I'm basically there, is at certain points the for me, I guess my question was going to be about the fears and desires component, because I notice the times when I'm more identified with the miasm are when the fears and desires are strong enough that they seem like the lens I'm seeing through the world with, and they're too close to home, and they feel either necessary for survival, or I'm conflating the survival with, thriving. And so I notice that where I'm kind of stuck in the mud tends to be the yeah, the you trying to follow that road of fears and desires to get somewhere and feel satisfied, versus that stuff just becomes less interested and I'm actually able to follow my life curriculum or more authentic self. And so I think my question, and any comments are about what I said are welcome, but I think the way I was approaching the question is like fears and desires, because I heard you say before about like super ego is kind of where fear and desire becomes part of the command center. So I was kind of curious if I'm in a stuckness around fear and desire, does that mean I'm in ego or in super ego? And like, how does it relate to also stage development? Do
Well,
you,
sure.
yeah, that question.
Okay, so ego is the part of the self that is seemingly trapped out in the wheel, being spun around, water, wood, fire, earth, metal, spun around through the seasons and all the emotions, and is a victim, and basically a victim of these forces it's unaware of and doesn't understand. Things are just happening to it. And it's fear through water and desire through the heart that tie us to that wheel, that bind us to it. Meditation frees us in water by giving us ease in the face of not knowing, and transcending the mind by seeing through it liberates the heart to explode in an infinite universe of profound, heartbreaking care and not taking things personally. So the Chinese metaphor was to step off the circle to the center and have the wheel spin around us. And all the cultivational texts refer to that as spinning around, reversing the course of the dipper handle. The big spoon in the skies is stirring at the circle around us, but we're in the middle, in the spot that's not moving. Now, this is somewhat harder when you're younger because of hormones, which are just physical conditioning. And it takes a lot of cultivation and a lot of time, but to develop and to transcend and see through all these things. I mean, I started doing spiritual work really when I was 13. And the big change didn't come till I was like 41, 42. So, I mean, it takes time, but I used to give this analogy that, like in martial arts, the heavy bag always wins. So there was a long period of my life where I'd kick a 60 to 80 pound leather bag for half an hour every day. And one day I kicked this leather bag and it split in half and the stuffing fell out and it like fell on the ground, and I felt an incredible sense of accomplishment. And I went and I put another one up and I kicked that one for 10 years. And at some point I realized I'm running out of steam and there's always going to be a new heavy bag. You understand? And in the same way, as one ages, if one is doing one's work, the kind one builds an ego in the world, has a measure of success, and builds a degree of self-esteem. And as the self is actually actualized, at that moment one sees through the self and realizes that it isn't real, it's an illusion. And as one ages, one becomes less and less hormonally compelled so that certain things which seemed incredibly and all-consumingly important earlier in life, like sex, for instance, become less and less important, which actually, interestingly, gives one a capacity to connect with another through that medium in a way one never had before when one was so interested in it, because it was just a matter of release. But there's a lot of substitute gratifications that just provide release and experience, and the mind keeps telling us, I need this experience, I need that experience, I need this experience. And at some point one just actually starts to transcend and move beyond that. And And then in my experience, then actually, to the degree I was compelled, for instance, in my earlier life taught these things, it actually significantly prevented me from having a meaningful communication or relationship to them. And the less and less important they've become, and the more they've sort of become not the focus of life, the more actually I can engage and be meaningfully involved with them. So instead of getting a bag of red licorice and eating a bag of red licorice, I can get a box of red licorice and eat it over 3.5 years, and now and then have a piece of red licorice and really enjoy it, you know? So some of and that is the wisdom that develops if one is doing one's work as one ages. I hope this answered your question in some way.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
so the thing is, you're young, so there are these there are things that seem so important. It's like a woman who didn't decide she didn't have a baby because she had a career. And then on a Tuesday evening, 3 in the morning, when she's 42, she wakes up and all of a sudden her life's going to be meaningless unless she has a baby, which provides a significant source of revenue to our profession. One of the classes I'm giving is on the psychology of fertility. Is one of the classes. So it's the same thing, you know. A guy is married and has 3 kids, and he's 52 years old, and all of a sudden it seems important to have sex with the 22-year-old secretary. Well, it's coming from the exact same place the woman who has to have a baby is coming from. It's just a hormonal kind of life existential crisis around the ego's identification and needing to be someone and have something. And one intuits that the self one was all these years is slipping away, and one begins to panic. Called just roughly midlife crisis.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Jessica. Hi.
Hey, Lonnie.
Hey.
I had my hand up and down, up and down, up and down several times. I don't know if you saw that.
Maybe that's why my video kept going on and on.
Yeah, I'll take all the credit for that. So it's like I have comments and questions and the progress report, and it's all really obviously interrelated.
Okay.
So when the very first person spoke, Hunter, and you were talking about the rock in the driveway,
Yeah.
the thing that it made me think about was, well, what's the point of all of this anyway, this being human? That's a rhetorical question. Right now, it's just rhetorical.
Well, I can tell you.
Okay, go ahead, tell me.
Self-knowledge.
Okay, perfect. I knew that.
You are one of the most evolved sense organs in the universe for consciousness to know itself through.
Yes, I resemble that remark, no doubt about it. So my answer that I came up with to my own question when I was thinking about what you might say was I was thinking about when you were speaking about us increasing our creativity and objectivity and the journeying of the soul into union and unity, as far as that is a really, really big part of, well, what's the point anyway of us as humans? It's this evolution. This is my answer. And as far as the impact of the class on me as a creature and me as a practitioner, I feel like been practicing for almost 30 years. And I feel like as a teacher and as an artist and as a student, that what you said about me being such an evolved sense organ, I feel like that I said I resemble that remark because it's true, because I feel very present. I feel like I've always been very present as far as in the treatment room, but I feel like I'm not really sure if I can actually say what stage the patient is in, but what I have observed more with these teachings is that most of my patients are
When you
resting.
wait, Jessica, when you say you don't know the stage, do you mean relative to the stages I laid out in deepening
Correct.
perspectives? Well,
Yes.
that takes some real study.
Yes.
You
So
know.
what I've noticed is that most of the people are they're very cagey, and they don't, when they ask about needle retention, and I say that the needles are going to be in for about 15 minutes or so, they seem a little bit out of sorts about that. And I give them the panic button. So in case they feel like they want me, I can come back in there. But the thing is that they keep coming back, and there are obvious shifts that they are speaking about. They're getting benefit. And after several treatments, I have a conversation with them about planning what they're going to do with their newfound energy when they are moving their energy away from their physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual imbalances. What will they do now that and then that seems to cause kind of like a regression because they don't want to be responsible for managing. And then I get to have a conversation with them about, just because something is familiar and you know how to operate within it doesn't mean that it's good for you, which is why you're having a treatment. And they're able to get themselves wrapped around that, and then progression happens. However, the other thing that I'm noticing is that as a result of doing the class, I feel more present in the treatment rooms. However, outside of the treatment rooms, when I'm in the world at large with other people, I actually feel more isolated and I feel more vulnerable. And I was thinking about page 75 in Deepening Perspectives, where you're talking about the turtle without its shell.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that vulnerability, because my observation or my experience is that most people don't want to engage in any kind of conversation about the ego, the soul, the psyche. Like most people don't
Well,
want
that's why it's such a relief and why I look forward to this class so much. That's what I said at the beginning of
Yes.
class.
I heard you say that, but the thing that it's like the good news and the bad news. It's like,
well, there's no bad news.
well, just as far as the construct of me feeling isolated when I'm out in the world at large.
Well,
Like
yeah,
like,
no, yeah, but the thing is, you know, as we awaken to the dimensions of the self, and as we actually open the heart, and as we transcend ego, transcend the mind, the ego and the mind and the superego are the mechanisms of separateness, right? And so as we transcend them, there is the experiences of living in a profound vulnerability. And that is a good and a beautiful thing, to live in a profound vulnerability, which doesn't mean not being able to stand up for oneself, for instance, or have appropriate boundaries at all.
Definitely. And I was going to say that I definitely, like Hunter, I feel the old constructs deconstructing. I feel simultaneously more peaceful, definitely terrified, definitely observe myself caring less about certain things, definitely caring a whole lot more about other things, definitely feeling even more compassion, even more empathy. It's
Yes.
even more, and definitely a big spike in my creativity as far as the part of me that's the artist. And the last thing I'm going to say before we end our snippet of our conversation, thank you for smiling, is that when I meditated this morning, I had this really immense experience of feeling like and this is obviously something from my imagination, but being the goop inside of the cocoon as the caterpillar is like liquefying to like reconstruct.
Yes.
It was one of the most profound experiences during meditation. And I was like, I watched the witness part of me come up and say, are you confabulating this, Jessica? Are you like what's going on here? Like it was so like 4, 5, 6 dimensionally real as far as like being in this.
Well, that's not the witness.
Okay, well, whatever part of me that was like, what is going on
That
here?
was your mind trying
Yeah.
to orient itself in time and space through
Yeah.
judgment.
It was wild, Lonnie. I was
Yes,
like,
so Jessica, I had an experience in meditation on a retreat, and
mhm,
I could see that essentially all there is a fire burning in emptiness, and that's all there is.
mm,
And I remember walking through the Denver airport
mhm,
and just walking, and I could see it. All we are is a fire and emptiness, and I could see none of these people know. They're all just walking around like this is all real.
yes.
But I wasn't feeling superior or judging them, but I could very clearly see they were walking in a construct, but I was free from it. The deeper one goes and the higher one goes, on the one hand, the more you should be able to connect with everyone in a human way.
Mm,
But on the other hand, the less you'll really feel met by most people.
mhm,
But then the imperative is on you to not be a victim and to forge relationships and put in the effort to find the people who will have the conversations that are profoundly meaningful.
definitely. That's
And
definitely
and when we do find them, it's love at first sight.
mm-hmm. Yeah, but way more listening. Thank you, Lonnie,
Thank you, Jessica.
so much.
Thank you very much. Hello, Colin.
Hey, Lonnie.
Yes, sir.
So my question, I'll do my best to present a concise question here.
Sure.
So I had this experience recently of I'm raising money for my tea company right now, and I own this company with employees and what have you. And the experience I had was what I can only describe as a state experience of having a moment in running this company and running this meeting with multiple people of a quality or a state of mind that had an archetypal flavor to it. And what I mean by that is I had a moment of witnessing this kind of general in the army, wood energy sort of entrepreneur quality of here's the vision, here's the landscape, here's the plan, here's how we're going to get there, and directing and guiding and delegating and that kind of thing. And I noticed it in this interesting kind of detached way of observing the self. And as I was reflecting on it later in the day, over the course of the next week, actually, I started seeing these archetypal energies of, the philosopher who wants to read Heidegger for fun at night, or the healer, the physician, or the musician, or what have you, or the meditator, the monk.
Mm-hmm.
And these archetypal energies, as I've observed them, journaled about them, felt into them, been aware in moments, they feel like state experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And what I observed in terms of stage development is they have different values. They have different frameworks and ethical sets, and they think differently. And so why this is coming up is the mind, they seem to have different minds. So in the way you
Well,
were
are you using the word mind? Because the way because the word mind can be used in many contexts. And the way I used it was just as a mechanism which works the same in everybody.
maybe
Orients the self in time and space through storage and retrieval of memory and identifying with the objects in consciousness.
Then maybe it would be they carry a different psyche. And
Yeah,
really
that's true.
my question is, what is the role? I think we all have these different archetypal kind of deep, I say psyche because they seem like an amalgamation of these different identities. We have different selves, basically. But these archetypal characters seem to be different than our generally identifying with our thoughts in a moment. They seem like strong forces or personas. And I'm just curious if you can speak about that in the context of psyche or mind a bit, because it's been something sort of startling the more I see it.
Yeah, that would be, if I ever do this course again, I'll put in a module on psyche, and I'll talk about the archetypes. Most people are driven by archetypes. And so a patient comes in and they start talking about themselves, and they're the spurned lover. And their male partner who cheated on them is the tyrant. And their mother was an angel, and their father was a bastard, or their ex-girlfriend is a whore. And they're talking about people as archetypes, and they're living out these cosmic grooves, and they're looking psychologically. The humanistic personal psychology of the 60s and 70s gives everyone just enough information that, I did this because my mother did this and my father did that, and the man or the woman who left me was raised this way and they had this experience. So they're always saying, and they're talking about these things, and they're really acting out these archetypes. And I give an example of this in one of the case studies, I think in Deepening Perspectives, I'm pretty sure, where, the man and the woman had been together for 10 years and they've had kids, and it was very passionate at first, but then they had kids, and then she put all the attention on kids and she stopped having sex with him, and he started getting involved with somebody else, you see? And they're in different rooms giving me all this psychological readout about why they made these choices and who they are and how they're just acting out Macbeth. They're just acting out things that have been written about for 4,000 years in culture, these cosmic grooves, and there's nothing personal about it. And so the thing is, as we wake up, getting in touch with the archetypes can be very, very powerful, but then we can see through them. So like for me, Bruce Lee was an archetype, and I got a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. And, for me, the archetype was the creative rebel. So, Jimi Hendrix and John Coltrane and Bruce Lee and Vincent van Gogh, and people who were kind of outside the system and did a cutting edge thing and that was kind of like an archetype for me that really compelled me. And, it's really something to wake up and to start to see, in this part of myself, I'm the warrior, and in this part of myself, I'm the master, and in this part of myself, and in this other part of myself, I'm sure I'm a victim. And this one part of myself, like I'm a deep victim. I've really been victimized here. And in this part, I'm the little kid. I'm the wounded inner child. And these are all archetypes. And to wake up to them and be able to see just how much we've identified. Archetypes are cosmic grooves. They're cosmic grooves. They're not personal. And then the ego personalizes it. And most people spend their whole life living out an archetype unconsciously, and they don't ever become an individual. To self-actualize means you become relatively free and objective in the face of these forces. But it doesn't mean you wholly transcend them because they're deep in the cosmos. It just means you have some objectivity in relationship and you're less driven by them. So I think, I think so what you're seeing through considering all the dimensions of the self is the archetypes are starting to become real to you as forces and themes around which you kind of identify with and have shaped you and you've identified with, and the contemplation in the face of them. Because last time you asked me, but I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this and I want to do that, and I have so many interests. And the thing is to be able to see all that and then sit in the face of it and with the deepest heartfelt sincerity, ask the question, let the unconscious know, let eternity know, let the soul know, I'm listening. How can I be most useful? Not what do I want to do, not what force compels me toward this, that, or the other thing, but given my capacities and given who I am, how can I best serve? Rather than what do I want? What will bring me the most pleasure? What will I focus on to bring me the most joy? Rather, really given who and what I am, what's going to make the best use of me. I had my earliest experience of this in life is really if you had asked me when I was 16 or 17, I wanted to be a rock and roll star. I mean, I was in a band, the high school band. I had long hair. I wanted to play music. And by the time I was 18, and I give myself a little credit for it, I said to myself, I love music, but it's not where my skill is really. I've got a mind and my skill is, I'm going to be most used in medicine. It's not that I wanted to do medicine. I didn't really want to do medicine, but I realized it's going to be science and medicine. That's where I'm going to excel. That's where I can give the most. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Hasso. Hi.
Hi, Lonnie. Hey,
Nice to see you.
nice to see you too. Yes, so I just wanted to say, in terms of I'm just increasingly getting more aware how humanity is really so disconnected, from the essence that we're really talking about, and I'm recognizing that I'm actually starting to feel more the capacities of my own psyche expanding actually on what we have been talking about, that there's actually a real capacity here for all of us to grow. And I started reading Chogyam Trungpa's book that you recommended to me last time.
Oh, good, beautiful.
Yeah, and there was something he said that struck me. He said, "There's inside of all of us, just the fact that we're humans reflects that we're so close. We're so close to really connecting with, in my own words, it would be with the self, with a capital S. That connection with the self is intrinsic in all of us, that we can actually access that. Just the fact that we're humans and that we have made it so far that we can embrace consciousness from a human dimension. And it really struck me because I kind of felt suddenly more compassion for people around me and humanity as a whole, because I still felt that we are operating from such reductionistic paradigms as humans, that it's sometimes just disgusts me. It's like, how can we be so limited if in truth we are such amazing beings, So, and that actually kind of brings me also to my own journey, which is understanding this whole connection with the divine, with a heavenly purpose, and manifesting that. It seems like when you were saying something, and I wrote that down. You wrote, the mind has no capacity to know, and I think just understanding. So if most of what is being encountered here is actually an expression of the mind, but the mind has no capacity to know.
Well, it only has the capacity to know, but the only thing it has the capacity to know is of a material nature.
Yes.
In other words, the mind is very good at designing rocket ships and weighing bowling balls, and the mind knows a lot about this world.
Yes.
But there's a mystery at the heart of everything, an ineffable, infinite mystery. And the mind cannot know that. And when the mind is confronted with that infinite mystery, it tends to experience its own intuit its own annihilation and experience terror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful contextualized. Thank you. So if we cannot really know, and then you wrote, we cannot, or you said, we cannot know. And the way an individual renounces knowing is by renouncing relationship to the contents of consciousness.
Yes.
Now, consciousness might mean something different than what I would see in the word consciousness.
Well, the
And
contents of the mind.
oh, okay. So that's kind of what you meant by that. Okay.
Well, the contents in consciousness, the mind is one of the contents of consciousness. Consciousness is infinite, but the mind is finite.
Right. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, so that's more clear then.
Yes, and the thing is, what happens when we transcend the mind and awaken is that the mind has formed our entire context, our whole life. And we project that out into the infinite universe. And then as we see through the construct of the mind and we see through the mind, all of a sudden, the room we were in grows infinitely larger. And the mind is revealed to be rather insignificant in relationship to the self, capital S.
Mm-hmm. So
And our
true.
context for who and what we are greatly, greatly expands. And in that expansion, for some time, the ego and the mind and the superego disappear in the rearview mirror in the face of this vast expansion. They disappear, and it can seem that they're gone, but they're not gone, and they tend to come back, which can be infuriating and disappointing because we thought we were free of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. That's beautiful, And I also wanted to say, what I noticed is a softening in my heart. I really notice, I think this whole contextualizing and differentiating that you have been sharing is really leading to also trusting deeper into that there's a deeper ground, on which we stand, that even if we free fall, and some of us might feel free falling at this moment, there's something that is eternally holding us in that free fall, and that's beautiful.
Yes, and you are the deeper ground.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's not you and the deeper ground.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
It is actually we are all there together, arising from that together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Hi, Tony.
Hi there. I have a comment and a question both. On the comment side, I would just say an update to my practice kind of relates to something you said a little bit ago, that you'd like to teach a class about the psychology of infertility.
Oh, I'm teaching it.
Oh, you are? Oh, great.
Yeah, it's one of the a la carte courses.
Oh, okay.
It's like well, it's not next week's Healing Crisis. It's one of the ones after that, between now and July.
Well, I would have a fantasy, being in the world of dermatology, that one day you or someone teach a class in the psychology of dermatology.
I think
Yeah.
not dermatology, but I gave a class for Michelle Gellis on the face.
Ah, all right. So I treat people with inflammatory skin conditions like
Oh, okay.
psoriasis and acne, rosacea, things like that.
Yeah.
But, it's very emotional for my patient base, especially when something affects their face,
hmm
especially adult onset new things. But a transition that I noticed today, I had two patients who had been on their first round of herbs, so 2.5 to 3 weeks, who were worse. Their skin was worse than the first time I saw them. And that used to be so jarring to me. It's not good for the ego. It's not good. I was always in my mind. And now just to be able to meet people in an emotional space much more confidently. I mean, this is normal for, it's not a percentage of people will purge before their skin gets better. But I think also not knowing, you can't overpromise. You can't tell people, oh, this is fine, your skin is definitely going to get better. But just being comfortable in that space of them being so upset and distraught about their skin, and me not being as jarred as I would have been before I studied with you. I thought
That's great.
that was a positive progress report on
Sure.
my end. But my question comes from your lecture, specifically about, you talked about meditating to the point where you feel extreme fear or terror. And I will say, just personally, having had a serious diagnosis where, the serious illness where the survival rate is very low, this was in 2024. I have been in a position where I have to think about my mortality. I mean, it's certainly sort of on the radar. But I don't experience fear or terror in meditation. And I wonder just, are some people more inclined to have a terror response based on childhood trauma, or just based on the their constitutional type? And I know you said meditate for longer in order to get to that space, but I'm just wondering, am I not
Well,
built to
Tony, it's not necessary. The bigger a person's ego is,
yeah,
meaning the more they're identified with it,
yeah,
the more that individual will tend to feel anxiety, fear, and terror as they get to the point in meditation where they're actually going to transcend and see through the ego.
hmm
But I mean, a person who's not as identified with ego, who doesn't have, they can have a healthier ego and not be as pathologically identified with it.
hmm hmm
So there are different possibilities. One is that you just haven't gotten to the point
yeah.
of actually letting go absolutely without condition. The other is that your ego may not be that big.
Well, I can cry in meditation. It's just that feeling of terror was something that I thought wasn't.
It's not,
Yeah.
people have all different kinds of experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't draw the conclusion that if you don't become terrified in meditation, you must be doing it wrong. I wouldn't think
Right.
something like that. You'd never want to make a problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever's going on with you, I wish for the best possible outcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And whichever way things go, if you did leave earlier, we'll all be there in a blink of an eye anyway.
Right. Well, right now, where I am today is appreciating that you're part of the journey at this moment. So it's great. I'm
Well,
happy with
I
that.
appreciate that too. Good to be with you.
Thank you.
Hello, Marie Francaire Young.
Hi.
Hi.
I've got a question that's been sitting with me. I kind of have to go through a little bit what I've been processing in the last couple of years. But my partner had a midlife crisis, and he basically got caught filming his colleagues at the university where he works getting undressed, and the
I'm
police came and
I'm
raided our house.
I'm sorry for that.
And
That's terrible.
yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. But it's like I when it happened, I didn't like I felt anger and I felt all of these things, but I understood where it came from and what part of him had to break. And I have a big sense of compassion for his suffering and his shadow side and all of that. And we've been raising three children together, three boys. So there's been a whole bunch of layers to that. And then recently, we've been in it for over a year and a half. And like 2 weeks ago, so it's mediatized. So yeah, it's public. And so 2 weeks ago, Greg said he was guilty. It's kind of like in Canada, you're not guilty until you're guilty. And so he was non-guilty, and now he said he was guilty. And so I read the articles, and I thought there were 5 videos because there were 5 victims. And then I was talking with Leo, our middle son, and then I said the media is like really off. Like, it's so weird. They're saying there's like between 10 and 20 videos, and there's only 5. And then Leo said to me, "Well, we don't know." And so finally there's like 12 videos, and Greg never mentioned that to me. And the thing is that we've been in therapy and we've been talking, and he's a psychologist, and we're both super engaged. And there was this one question that Colin asked like a few times ago, where Colin said, "How do you know when to keep going? How do you know when to stop?" And then you said, you just sit with it, and you ask yourself, is this, and for me, that was like very, very helpful, because I feel like when I sit with myself, I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with everything, the judgments and all like I'm okay that everything's falling apart. But it's like the fact that he lied to me basically for a year and a half, and that I learned through the media the extent, like the truth, and now I can't figure it out. And then I sit with it, and then I recently I was just like, well, it's just that I have to accept that I don't know right now. I'm in a space where I can't know.
What can't you know?
I can't figure out if I should leave or if I should stay, because we unpacked it all over again. And Greg is like, I didn't want to get into the details because I felt like you had enough to know what had happened. But then I feel like there's such a lack of consideration for me that I learned the truth through media.
Yeah. It's
And
very
so now
painful.
it's like I'm in so much pain, and I just can't figure it out.
I don't
Yeah.
think you can figure it out.
so I said, I sort of said to my soul, I was like, okay, at this point, like, just let me know when it's time to go, where I should go, when, like, I'm open to it all. But the pain is like really raw, and I don't know to, like, I feel really hurt, and I just don't
Well,
know what
it
to,
would be weird if you didn't.
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
I think the only way through is to hold this with a really big heart. Which means giving yourself all the room in the world for whatever your experience is. And just being really interested in, there are, so my experience, for instance, when my ex-wife told me we weren't going to be married anymore and that she had been seeing somebody for 6 months, was to realize that 5 seconds before she told me that, I lived in one world, and then 5 seconds after she told me, I lived in a whole other world. And then it made me ask myself, why didn't I see all this? What was the world I was invested in? And if I didn't see all that then, what aren't I seeing now? Which means I've gone through my life every day since that time, always interested in what I'm not seeing. And just questioning and being open and being interested. What you're going through is really painful. You don't have to make there's no imperative to have to make a decision immediately. And you can give yourself all the room to just examine your motivations in relationship to all of it. And look in your deepest heart and ask yourself, what do I want? And beyond what do I want, what is right? And then you have to do something which is discern. The superego might have things like, you're a mother and you're a wife, and a good mother does this and a good wife does that. And you have to see through those kind of culturally conditioned responses in asking the soul and the unconscious in terms of my life curriculum, what is the right path here? And you find out too, which can be confusing, that even though love is everything, in relationship to things like this, love is never enough. The fact that there's love doesn't mean that one should stay. There can be love and one can go. I'm very sorry that you have to go through all this. It sounds terrible, but it seems like, you've got what it takes to just hold it in a big heart, open to your soul, and really ask to be taught here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I have one last question. I have this question that sits with me, because Greg and I have discussed it, and he said, I can't guarantee that I won't hurt you again. Like, it's just not something, because we all have shadow and we all have. So I don't know how to come across that concept of being with someone and knowing that probably will hurt each other. Like it's confusing for me.
Well, there's hurt and there's hurt. I mean, yesterday I put a teacup down on a wooden table, and Emily said, you really can't do that. You got to use a cup holder because we don't want to leave stains. And I said, I'm sorry. So there's that. And then there's putting cameras in bathrooms and lying about it. And the essential question here really is, do you, like if he said to you, the most important thing is love, transparency, and integrity, and I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust, because the love we have and the family we have is the most important thing, and I'll do whatever it takes. If he said that, would you then say, yes, I'll do that with you?
Yeah.
And if you would, that's fair enough. But if he won't say that, I wouldn't settle for anything less.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
Well, you need to be mostly concerned with your transparency, your integrity to your deepest heart,
Right.
and creating the kind of relationship and love in the world that you know you're capable of.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't value that and doesn't want that to the
Right.
point where he'll do anything for it, then that's your answer.
Thank you. I kept sitting with your saying of you can only trust a person to the extent you trust yourself, and
Yes.
sort of wondering what that meant. But I get it now. It's kind of like asking myself really deeply what's important for me and sticking with it.
Yes, and there are deep, there are deep questions to ask, like, I chose a man who did this.
I know.
What wasn't I seeing? What do I want? What in me chose a man with these pathologies, didn't see them, and what function did those pathologies serve to protect me from a level of intimacy that I wasn't willing to go to?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Don.
Hi, Lonnie.
Nice to see you.
I am amazed that this program you run, the biggest profound effect it's had on me is to actually experience contemplation without the absolute endless fighting within myself.
That's beautiful.
It stuck with me for so long, where I would have these feelings or thoughts that I was trying to work through, and I just get caught up in an endless cycle of feeling the pain, berating myself, justifying it, defending it, all sorts of things like that, and never being able to move through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding now I can work through, I can actually sit with the feelings, the strong angers and fears. Not all of them yet, but I'm working on it. And as I sit with them, like I cannot be caught up bouncing back and forth between the fear and the desire. And it's been really liberating, and I just want to say thank you.
That's fabulous. You've come a long way in the last couple of years.
Yes, and I so appreciate this group and your wisdom. Thank you.
Well, good, and I appreciate that. But you also have to appreciate that you're doing it.
Yes, yes.
And,
yes.
and just open up to let in how important it is to you, how you didn't quit, how you kept going till you found this, and that you're giving it everything you're giving it, and really let that in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm complete.
Okay, Tara, hi.
Hi, thank you. I guess I just wanted to report a little bit. I wasn't going to, but I feel like I'm in a very similar, I started this series of classes in a very similar place as Marie has been in, coming out of a very painful pattern of betrayals from my partner of 6 years, and we ended things. And I was in so much pain and very confused. And this class has really allowed me to, the meditative practice has allowed me to take some space from that pain and what felt like incredible, excruciating guttedness out of my heart and being has now really, I've been able to heal a lot of that. I've been able to see a lot of the existential knots and introjects that had created the patterns that brought me to a place of putting up with that and having a pattern of relationships like that throughout my life. And this class has been just so helpful in healing that, putting me on a different trajectory, and allowing me to, I think, get to a new place, align with my higher self in a way that I'm more meant to, and move in a direction I think more divinely aligned. And the whole practice and everything you've been speaking has been just incredible for that. And I hope that's helpful for you, Marie, too, just to know that you're not alone, and some of this practice can help give you the insight. Part of it was also, I think, our cultural conditioning as women is to give of ourselves too much and to have empathy for everyone but ourselves. And part of this class has taught me to put myself under the umbrella of my own empathy and include myself in my kindness, which I had been taught to always keep outside of that and put others first. And so just thank you so much for all of that. And I hope
thank you. Beautiful. Anybody else? We have time for one last question, I think. Okay, my friends. Well, the next module is on the soul. And then the one after that is spirit. And then we have the 5 spirits and the 5 virtues. Contextualize it all with some Chinese medicine. So when you go to the discussion groups are as serious and important to practice as meditation. Going into meditation and spending your entire time paying attention to your thoughts and having conversations with your thoughts is not right. It is not meditation. It's not what we're doing. Going into the discussion group and just speaking about all your thoughts is not right. It's not what we're doing. In the discussion group, there's some aspect where we can say, oh, Lonnie said this, or the book said that, and I wasn't really clear. Can someone explain that to me? That's okay. But what we're really doing is focusing on the prompt and just sitting with the prompt and really looking at our own experience. And speaking directly from experience in a non-abstract way, really interested to look into things together. What is the mind? How does the mind work? What is the soul? What does it mean in this next module? What does it mean to be a soul? We don't want the soul to be abstract. It shouldn't be some philosophical thing. It is a significant dimension. What does it mean to not just be an ego, but to be a soul, to recognize a dimension of yourself that is eternal and has been coming back forever and will come back forever, always interested in going deeper, 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 gaining deeper and deeper self-knowledge, more and more profound union with spirit. What does it mean to be a soul? What Tara was saying and what Mary Fransard was saying, one way to take it is, I'm a woman and this is this, and I was a wife or I was a girlfriend or I was a partner and this was done to me and I feel this way and my parents did this when I was little and my religion teaches me that and everybody thinks this and the media says this and this. That's one dimension of it. But a more profound dimension is to sit with the soul and to understand, one, that yes, I've been betrayed, but in the course of deep time, I've been the betrayer. I've played that role. I've been the betrayer too. And to recognize that my life as it looks right now, exactly as it is giving me the opportunity to master and transcend and get beyond an issue that I never have in any other lifetime. And this is, on the one hand, the ego. As an ego, I am a victim of this, and I have all these thoughts, feelings, and emotions and shame about it, potentially, right? But as a soul, I have an opportunity here to grow in unimaginable ways, to realize a depth of humanity, a profundity of what it means to be a human that not only will change everything for me, but for all women, and not just for all women, but for all people who are betrayed, all people who are shamed, all people who think this is just too much. I can never get over this. Looking at it from the soul's perspective, it all becomes, it's all right. And it all becomes very, very interesting. And then we begin to listen very deeply, not to what the mind is telling us about all this. Well, this means this about you, and this means this about the kids, and this means this about the family, or this means, but rather to listen beyond that to what is there for me to learn here, and how can I grow into a new self with who is open to a deeper kind of intimacy, and choose a partner that will not do this to me, because up front, the first thing they know is my greatest value is integrity and transparency and freedom, and that I will be true to that before I'm true to anything else. That at all times, in all places, in all circumstances, my primary love is to spirit and to integrity itself. And to choose a partner who understands that and has that same value. And then we can come together in that. Okay, very good, everyone. I will see you. And then remember, next month is on a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. I think it's March 3rd. Look at the date, but I think it's on Tuesday the 3rd, not Wednesday the 4th, as originally published. I will post this tomorrow, and take care of yourselves. Good night.